Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 116. Without any delay, start explanation. Yuan and Yehui didn't bother dodging Gu's assault. Devil Titan increased her defenses just as much as it increased her strength. Even Tang Wulin's attacks, which were empowered by Golden Dragon Body, only sent tingles through her body. The barrage of wind blades and icicles only tickled her. She swatted at Guu in annoyance, but before she could land a hit, a strand of blue-silver grass wrapped around Gu's waist and pulled her away. Tang Wulin had crawled back up from the floor once again and pulled Guu out of harm's way. Yet, even as she retreated, Guu continued to unleash an onslaught of elementals attacks upon Yuan and Yehui. This guy? He's as tough as leather. Yuan and Yehui punched at Guu, this time sending a blast of air at her, but Tang Wulin pulled her out of the way again. He then charged Yuan and Yehui with renewed vigor, throwing a bun into his mouth as he ran. A bloodthirst bin bun? Yuan and Yehui recognized it instantly. That's why Guu ran over. She was delivering a bin bun. Yuan and Yehui knew that Devil Titan wouldn't last much longer. She was already finding it difficult to defeat Tang Wulin, but now he had a bloodthirst bin bun. If she didn't finish him now, then it would be impossible for her to win. The bloodthirst effect would definitely outlast her transformation. I can't let things go his way. She steeled herself, resolution glimmering in her eyes. She raised her muscular arms, then smashed them down onto the stage. The ground rumbled and quaked, a seismic wave spreading outward and knocking Tang Wulin and Guu into the air. Yuan and Yehui immediately continued her offensive. She leaped over to the two with lightning speed and smashed her fists down on them. Tang Wulin had only just swallowed the bin bun when the shockwave knocked him into the air. The effects of the bun had yet to take hold. But in that moment of crisis, the most unexpected thing occurred. In a flash of silver, Tang Wulin was teleported to Guu's side. She wrapped an arm around his waist and thrust a palm outward to meet Yuan and Yehui's fists. Only those with the keenest of eyes were able to see that, right before her palm met Yuan and Yehui's fists, an iridescent flash of energy appeared in it. It was a whirlpool of space, light, water, fire, and earth. In the next instant, Yuan's fists made contact, and Guu and Tang Wulin were spinning backward. Tang Wulin subconsciously wrapped his body around Guu's as they were sent flying. Yet Yuan and Yehui didn't come away from the exchange unscathed either. The whirlpool of elements had latched onto her arms and began to spread, sending shivers through her body. Elemental chaos? The Holy Spirit Doluo stared wide-eyed. All of the titled Duluos on the platform above moved to the edge of their seats. A small golden snake appeared in a flash of light, wrapping around Tang Wulin and Guu to soften their landing. It absorbed the impact as they bounced to the ground, allowing Tang Wulin to remain on his feet upon touching down. He managed to only stumble a few steps even with Guu in his arms. After skidding to a stop, Tang Wulin coughed up a mouthful of blood. His body had taken quite the beating from going round after round with Yuan and Yehui. Even after eating the bin bun, his body felt heavy. How are you doing? Guu asked. Tang Wulin shook his head. I'm fine. The bloodthirst effect is kicking in. Okay. Go help Xinglan then. I can handle this. All right. Tang Wulin took in 2 deep breaths, then took off running toward Yi Xinglan. While the two were talking, Yuan and Yehui had been waving her arms frantically in an attempt to rid herself of the whirlpool's effects. In the end, she managed to disperse the 5 elements clinging to her, but not before the hairs on her arms were heavily damaged. In the interest of dealing a decisive blow, she had even used her broken right arm in the strike she just threw, relying on pure willpower to move the fractured bones. Her strength was waning. Devil Titan was wearing off. Guu took a step toward Yuan and Yehui. The instant her toes touched the ground, she disappeared in a flash of silver light, only to reappear directly in front of Yuan and Yehui. Her face held no expression as she calmly raised a palm and thrust it at Yuan and Yehui. Red, yellow, and blue energies shrouded that palm strike. She's engaging in close quarters? Yuan and Yehue instinctively reacted with a punch, only for Gu to disappear in a silver flash once more. A split second later, she appeared to the side of Yuan and Yehue. She struck Yuan and Yehue with her tricolored palm. The whirling elemental energies exploded upon contact. Even with all the strength that filled Yuan and Yehue's bulky body, this strike sent her reeling backward. What happened next left everyone in shock. Gu continued to teleport around Yuan and Yehue, dodging each punch at the last possible instant, countering with an tri-element palm strike, then teleporting away again. If Yuan and Yehue slammed the floor to create a shockwave, then Gu struck from above. She was like a spectre, impossible to catch. The spectating second-grade students were dumbstruck. The first grade had someone like this? It had been shocking enough that Tang Wulin could go toe-to-toe with Yuan and Yehue, but now Gu appeared and toyed with her with this unorthodox battle style. Even someone as skilled at spatial control as Luo Guixing couldn't believe his eyes. Just how powerful is Gu? She's teleporting non-stop. Her spiritual power has got to be immense. Then there are those three-element palm strikes. How is she able to unleash them so quickly? She's never showed anything like this before. Even in the selection tournament, her strength was still within the realm of plausibility. Is this her true strength? Two booms suddenly rang out from the other side of the stage, one after the other. The first came from He Xiaopeng, having been sent careening backward by an explosive barrage of starlight threads. Xu Xiaoyan had rooted him in place with her star wheel shackles. Yi Xinglan then took advantage of this opening to unleash a barrage of starlight threads. A moment after that, white light enveloped him, and he disappeared. Of Yi Xinglan's two remaining opponents, one had been defeated. In the next instant, a second opponent, Yu Jingyu, advanced with furious power. His radiant sword burst with holy flame, and he slashed it at Yi Xinglan, striking her star-god sword at an odd angle. Yi Xinglan twisted to face the blow and muster up the best defense possible, but it sent her flying, her body erupting in holy flame. White light enveloped her, and she departed the stage, having been eliminated as well. It was then Tang Wulin arrived at that side of the battlefield. He glanced at where Yi Xinglan had been and growled. "Oh Xinglan, you're too arrogant for your own good." With her strength, Yi Xinglan would have had no problem stalling until Tang Wulin reached her, but in her arrogance, she chose to bring her battle to a head. She struck out and managed to take out He Xiaopeng. In doing so, she left herself open to Yu Jingyu. Although she ended up falling to his blade, in a 1 versus 2 situation, she managed to take one opponent down and exhaust the other. She had already displayed her strength. The first and second grade students in the audience watched with bated breath. On the first grade side, Yi Xinglan had been eliminated. The second grade had lost both Yi Xingmo and He Xiaopeng. The first grade now held the advantage. It was 5 against 4. After dispatching Yi Xinglan, Yu Jingyu took stock of the situation. He quickly noticed that his team was at a disadvantage and promptly took action. A holy aura enveloped him, and he raised his holy sword, his 3 soul rings taking on an intense sheen at the same time. He lit up like a soul bulb, radiant as the sun itself. Powerful waves of holy might rolled off of him. With his sword raised to pierce the heavens, holy light descended around him. The entire stage basked in the brilliant splendor, an expanse of golden clouds gathered in the sky above. The very sight filled everyone with awe. Judgment. Yu Jingyu's voice resounded throughout the arena, the entire stage trembling before his holy might. 3 golden beams of light fell upon Tang Wulin, Xu Lixi, and Xu Xiaoyan. They swallowed them up in an instant, their figures disappearing. The beams were made of pure holy energy. Inside of them, Xu Lixi and Xu Xiaoyan felt as if their souls were ascending to a higher realm. They felt no pain or suffering, only a comforting warmth. However, the soul power in their bodies gushed out of them uncontrollably. In the blink of an eye, half of their soul power reserves were gone. Then weakness took hold of their bodies. Before this could go on any further, 2 beams of white shot out. They disrupted the beams of holy energy, taking their places on Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi to whisk them away in a flash of light. Both were eliminated. No one had expected Yu Jingyu to explode with such power. His attack carried the might of his three soul skills, possessing the power to dissolve the energy within the bodies of his targets. The tide of battle had been turned in an instant. The moment his two teammates were eliminated, Tang Wulin's golden soul ring shone brightly. A golden aura blazed into existence around him and fought back the holy light. Compared to Yu Jingyu's brilliant aura, Tang Wulin's aura held a hint of darkness. 5 streaks of dark gold sliced through the holy light and continued onward to Yu Jingyu. Spatial cracks appeared around Yu Jingyu as the streaks approached him. In another flash of white light, Yu Jingyu disappeared from the stage. With just a wave of her hand, the Holy Spirit Dolor saved another student from fatal harm. And Yu Jingyu was also eliminated. Tang Wulin may have defeated Yu Jingyu by using both his Golden Dragon Dreadclaw and Blue-Silver Golden Array, but he did not come away from the holy light unscathed. Immediately after retaliating, he fell to one knee, gasping for breath. The concentrated bombardment of holy judgment had depleted Tang Wulin's energies and washed away the bloodthirst effect. After taking a beating from Yuan and Yehui, and now this, his reserves had now run dry. The first-grade team now found itself facing a dire situation. If Tang Wulin couldn't continue fighting, then only Ji Yu and Xie remained. To make matters worse, at that very moment, Du and Hun Xiao cornered Xie's clone. As expected, the second grade is stronger in the end. Confidence glimmered in the eyes of the second-grade students. Weakness weighed down on Tang Wulin's body. This battle had placed him under the most pressure. He had gone toe-to-toe with Yuan and Yehui and kept her occupied, had taken a full blast of holy might, and had even mustered the strength he still had to take out Yu Jingyu. But the battle wasn't over. Neither side had won yet. Tang Wulin pushed off the ground with his right hand, swaying and teetering until he found his footing. He then took in a deep breath, raised his hands, and began moving them in circles. The flow of his blood essence reversed once more. As he did that, the showdown between Ji Yu and Yuan and Yehui reached its climax. Ji Yu danced like a spectre, her figure flickering in and out of existence around Yuan and Yehui. Each time she appeared, a tri-element palm strike quickly followed. Despite all her strength, all Yuan and Yehui could do was passively defend. As the countdown on Devil Titan's duration reached its end, her expression grew darker and quickly soured into a frown. She had never considered switching to her fallen angel martial soul for this match. She kept it a secret that few were privy to. If she did use it, her true gender would be revealed. However, Ji Yu's strength far exceeded her expectations. Isn't she supposed to be a ranged attacker? How is she able to condense the elements and use it in close quarters combat like this? Although Devil Titan did power her defenses up to an impressive level, Yuan and Yehui still needed to move soul power through her body to dispel the elemental energies left by each of Ji Yu's palm strikes. The elemental energies quickly accumulated on her body, fusing together to produce more potent effects. If Yuan and Yehui were in peak condition, she would have had nothing to fear from Ji Yu. She could have just used a wide-ranged attack to force her away. Teleportation was indeed a powerful ability, but Yuan and Yehui could have just created a spatial disturbance with a full-strength punch. That, by itself, would have prevented Ji Yu from teleporting all over the place. Unfortunately for Yuan and Yehui, the effects of Devil Titan were about to expire. Her strength was already plummeting rapidly. She wouldn't be able to hold out much longer. She couldn't sustain her Titan Giant Ape form much longer either. Her soul power was nearly depleted. Even if she switched over to her fallen angel martial soul, her combat power would take a massive hit. What can I do? At that moment, a sharp, melodic sound pierced the air. On the other side of the battlefield, 2 figures stumbled backward and fused into one. Xie stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. He had no way of defending against Du and Huanxiao's attack. Du and Huanxiao's eyes had a frosty edge to them. Despite being his team's control-type Soul Master, he had failed to stop the enemy agility-type Soul Master from attacking his teammate. He felt utterly humiliated. He had his own pride, and Yuan and Yehui was the only person in his class that he respected. Xie had used his surprise attack to throw Bai Haining and Duan Hunxiao into disarray, then worked with his clone to keep them occupied. However, his clone had been dispelled and he no longer had enough soul power to call another one. Duan Hunxiao didn't let this opportunity go to waste. His third soul ring lit up and he blew into his flute. A screech pierced the air, a baleful aura enveloping Xie. It was his third soul skill, Death Song, a sound wave attack that also affected the target's mind. Bai Haining chose this moment to act. She waved the branch in her hand, scattering cherry blossom petals into the air. The petals drifted over to Yuan and Yehui. The moment they touched her, her back straightened, ferocity returned to her gaze, and a shimmering aura of white enveloped her. With her strength restored, she stomped at the ground. Space in a 10-meter radius of her warped and trembled. Gu suddenly appeared out of thin air and dropped to the ground. After retreating a few steps, she took up her battle stance. Xin Yi and Wu Zhongkong furrowed their brows at this sight. Yuan and Yehui slowly strode over to Gu. With Xie completely restrained by Duan Hunxiao, his fate was decided. No suspense remained in this battle. Bai Haining's cherry blossom petals were like a bridge between her and Yuan and Yehui. She revealed a sweet smile as she stared at Yuan and Yehui's back. This soul skill was called Lover's Bridge. Once formed, it linked the soul power reserves of the user and the target. The connection allowed Bai Haining to funnel her soul power into Yuan and Yehui. With access to a Soul Elder's soul power reserves, it was only natural that Yuan and Yehui would be able to continue to fight in her Titan Giant Ape form. Today's battle was full of surprises. With Tang Wulin's schemes and Yi Xinglan's strength, the first-grade team had been able to take out Yi Xingmo and He Xiaopeng. However, they hadn't expected Yu Jingyu to unleash such a powerful attack. Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi had been eliminated in an instant. Although Tang Wulin took Yu Jingyu down swiftly afterward, their supply line had already been cut off. The first-grade team's situation only worsened from there, yet the second-grade team still had Yuan and Yehui, the four-ring Duan Hunxiao, and the support type Bai Haining. It was clear which side would win. The roar of a dragon filled the stage. Tang Wulin's body glowed gold as he walked to Gu's side. The two now stood shoulder to shoulder. At that moment, a white light flashed and Xie disappeared from the battlefield. He reappeared beside the Holy Spirit Dolor an instant later. He hadn't been able to endure the death song any longer. Duan Hunxiao turned to face them, Tang Wulin and Gu. It was now 2 versus 3. If Tang Wulin were in peak condition, then maybe there would have been hope. However, since the bloodthirst effect wore off, he was in a weakened state. His golden aura wasn't as magnificent as it usually was. With just him and Gu remaining, there was no hope for victory. Yuan and Yehui came to a stop and looked Tang Wulin in the eye. Surrender. Even if they lost, they had already earned enough glory. There was a 3-year age difference between grades at Shrek Academy. The gap in strength that 3 years of time created was like that of heaven and earth. But Tang Wulin couldn't give up here. Tang Wulin's gaze did not possess its usual calm. Determination still burned brightly in it, so bright that his eyes resembled a pair of fireballs. He held his head high as he strode forward, the dragon's roar growing louder with each step. He stopped a short distance ahead of Gu. She stared at him blankly, the sight of his broad shoulders filling her eyes. Duan Hunxiao brought his flute back up to his mouth. With a cold glint in his eyes, he sucked in a deep breath and prepared to blow. If Tang Wulin and Gu didn't concede, he would immediately launch his attack. Yuan and Yehui sighed. Defeating her opponent in a battle was a show of respect. I shouldn't have asked. Tang Wulin smiled. He slowly raised his dragon claw and squeezed out the last shred of strength in his body, pushing his golden soul ring shine brightly once more. Tang Wulin knew the battle was hopeless, but he did not cower and surrender. Even in defeat he would stand with his back straight and head held high. It wasn't just his own pride that he had to protect. He stood there on the stage as the champion of the entire first grade. Defeat was acceptable, but surrender was not. All of the first grade students got to their feet, standing straight and watching the finale with clenched fists. At that moment, all of their hearts were united as they desperately hoped Tang Wulin would create a miracle. "That's our class president." Wu Sidwa clenched her fists tighter than anyone else, her knuckles strained white. She yearned to be up on that stage with them. "Maybe, just maybe, if I were up there too, maybe we could have won this match." "You're not allowed to lose, Tang Wulin." Up on the platform, Elder Cai nodded slightly. "Even in defeat, there is honor. He's living up to the legacies of Shrek Academy and the Tang sect." Feng Wuyu snorted, but didn't say a word. Shuasha furrowed his brow. His grand disciple had already proven himself, but this was Shrek Academy. There had never been a shortage of monsters here. Tang Wulin was not weak. His opponent was too strong. None of them believed that Tang Wulin and Gu had a shot at winning. The Holy Spirit Doluo watched the scene unfold with calm eyes. Yuan and Yehue raised a fist and strode across the stage to meet Tang Wulin. Duan Hunxiao took a deep breath and prepared to blow on his flute. A faint smile tugged at the corner of the Doluo's mouth as her gaze moved to Tang Wulin. But an instant later, shock replaced the calm. Gu snapped out of her daze and stopped staring at Tang Wulin's back. She took a step forward and hugged him from behind. What is she doing? Even if you like him, do you really have to do that during a battle? And you two are so young too. What on earth is she doing? No one could comprehend what they were seeing. Yuan and Yehue and Duan Hunxiao were dumbstruck. The lovers' bridge that connected Bai Hanying and Yuan and Yehue wavered. The teachers on the platform had blank looks on their faces. The lifeless dragon roar coming from Tang Wulin's body suddenly grew stronger. His blood essence surged with power. Strands of red, blue, yellow, green, gold, silver, and black rose from Gu's body, intertwining to become one before merging into Tang Wulin's body. The 7 colors spread across his golden scales, painting them with their hues, and the regal majesty of his aura grew even further. Tang Wulin couldn't understand what was happening. All he knew was that his body was now bursting with power. The unprecedented level of power thrashing within him made his entire body tremble. His 7-colored scales grew thicker, turning transparent as they spread to cover the rest of his body. He was soon clad in an armor of shining translucent scales. The dragon within him roared, looking upon the whole world with disdain. Up on the platform, Scarlet Dragon Doluo Shuasha and Blazing Dragon Doluo Feng Wuyu groaned. Their faces contorted with horror, clearly feeling their martial souls being suppressed. If their cultivation levels weren't so much higher than Tang Wulin's, they would have already been prostrating themselves before him. What's going on? Tang Wulin floated a few meters into the air. His dragon claw now gleamed with 7 resplendent colors. Clenching it into a fist, Duan Hunxiao reacted quickly to the change. His 4th soul ring lit up and he blew an ear-piercing note, creating a sound wave so powerful that it may as well have been tangible. The wave rolled toward Tang Wulin, threatening to swallow him whole, but when it was only 5 meters away from him, the space around him warped and the sound wave disappeared. The flute went silent. Then Tang Wulin turned to Yuan and Yehue, instantly crossed the distance between them, and punched. Only then did Yuan and Yehue recover from her shock. She let out a battle cry and threw both her fists forward to meet Tang Wulin's attack, drawing out every last drop of strength from her body. However, inches before Yuan and Yehue's fists met Tang Wulin's, the space around her distorted. She felt as if she were trying to move through a quagmire. No matter how much strength she exerted, her body refused to move forward. A 7-colored light engulfed the entire battlefield in an instant. The colors mingled together, swirling back and forth until all the spectating students could see encompassing the stage was pitch-black darkness. The battlefield was completely devoid of light. What's happening? No one understood what they were seeing. Then, in the next moment, light appeared to illuminate the darkness. This light was a familiar white. It retrieved Yuan and Yehue, Bai Hanying, and Duan Hunxiao from the darkness, moving them from the stage. Then it transformed into a net and covered all of the students the Holy Spirit Dolor had extracted from the battle. Once it did, the darkness began to fade away, revealing the transformed Tang Wulin floating in the air. He slowly descended, coming to a gentle landing on the stage. Gu then separated from his body. The instant she did, the blossom of 7 lights vanished into nothingness. The two of them stood there with their eyes closed, completely and utterly motionless. What just happened? Just what is going on? What was that 7-colored light? And those multicolored scales? Everyone stared at Tang Wulin and Gu with dumbfounded looks on their faces. Even the elders watching from their platform were at a loss. What was that? They've lost consciousness. The Holy Spirit Dolor was the first to speak. Both sides have been defeated, but since I had to save the remaining second-grade students at the end, victory goes to the first grade. Although both Tang Wulin and Gu lost consciousness, they remained standing. Both were leaning into each other, neither one allowing the other to fall. The students of the first grade did not cheer. Passionate tears flowed from their eyes instead. At that moment, all of them recognized Tang Wulin as their rightful class president and Gu as their vice president. Then realization dawned on them. Glory went to the first grade. They had won. We're students of the first grade. They all shouted within their hearts, fire blazing in their eyes. Yuan and Yehue's mask of calm finally cracked. She clenched her fist and stared at the two people nestled against each other on the stage. Up on the platform, Elder Cai stared at the duo in astonishment. It's a soul fusion skill. That was the only explanation she could come up with. There was no other way to explain the transformation that occurred when Gu hugged Tang Wulin. Shuasha wore a pensive expression. That punch, it created a vacuum. Instead of immediately refuting what Shuasha said, Feng Wuyu nodded in agreement. Yes. It was a vacuum. All 7 elements were stripped away, leaving only a space that needed to be filled. No energy remained, no fire, water, earth, wind, light, darkness, or even spatial energy. Wulin's punch created a vacuum devoid of the 7 elements. I never would have thought they would be able to use a soul fusion skill like that with 2 unrelated martial souls. I'll call that move the Dragon King Vacuum Punch. Are their martial souls really unrelated? Shuasha stared at the 2 students on stage, his eyes narrowing to slits. Shuasha had taught Tang Wulin the basis of Golden Dragon shocks the heavens, so he understood it best. If that's truly the case, why did I feel his blood essence explode with strength when they transformed? Has his bloodline sublimated? No, that can't be. Even if he used a soul fusion skill, there's no way that could have happened. When they went to move Tang Wulin and Gu from the stage, they were surprised to find her latched onto him like a clamp. It was impossible to remove her from him. Since they couldn't separate Gu from Tang Wulin, Feng Wuyu, Shuasha, and Holy Spirit Dolor Yoli ended up bringing them back to the working student dormitory in one bundle. Yoli, their bodies okay? Shuasha asked. The Holy Spirit Dolor shook her head. There's no real problem with their bodies. They are just exhausted. That transformation was too much for them to bear, so they'll need time to recover. Truth be told, their soul fusion skill is quite strange. Generally speaking, a soul fusion skill can be used when both soul masters have at least 3 rings. But it looks like the soul fusion skill of these 2 is far more demanding. Or maybe it would be more accurate to say that it's exceedingly powerful. It simply consumed too much of their energy. Fortunately, they have good foundations, so they just need time to rest and recover now. They'll need a full month of rest. 1 month. Hearing this from Shrek Academy's most powerful healer left Feng Wuyu and Shuasha flabbergasted. The value of a soul fusion skill that required a month's rest after using it was dubious. However, this also served as proof to just how overbearing Tang Wulin and Gu soul fusion skill was. They didn't actually complete their soul fusion skill either, Yoli said. Yet I felt my heart race when they used it. The more compatible 2 people are, the more powerful their soul fusion skill is. Even if we searched all of history, it would be hard to find more than a handful of people whose fusion rate exceeded 80%. The highest fusion rate ever recorded is that of Spirit Ice Dolor Huiyuhao and his wife, Dragon Butterfly Dolor Tang Wuto. They both had twin martial souls that enabled them to use a total of 4 soul fusion skills. They are praised as the strongest duo in all of history. It's been said that their fusion rate even approached 100% compatibility. Some historians whose research focused on Huiyuhao and his wife stated that any soul fusion skill capable of reaching 100% fusion rate would be considered a divine fusion. If both soul masters were at a sufficiently high enough level, using such a soul fusion skill would allow them to exhibit power on par with a god. Although I only have an inkling of a suspicion, the soul fusion skill of these two children might be on par with a divine fusion soul skill. I can't imagine any other reason why their soul fusion skill would be so powerful. We'll need to keep a close eye on them. If my suspicion turns out to be correct, then Shrek Academy will have picked up a pair of real treasures. Feng Wuyu and Shueisha looked at each other in dismay, both sharing a bitter smile. It was impossible to examine Tang Wulin and Ji Yu's soul fusion skill at the moment. One use alone left them bedridden for a month. This was too high a price to ask the two children to pay. They were in the spring of their youth. The amount they could grow in a month was enormous. Sun with rays. Blood essence bubbled, surging forth like a raging river. Tang Wulin opened his eyes to find himself within his spiritual world. It stretched out before him like a sea of stars. Countless specks of gold floated, suspended in space. The golden hall from before was nowhere to be seen. Then he looked up. To his astonishment, an enormous golden dragon floated above him. It was too large for him to even fathom. Its body seemed to stretch on forever. There were 18 rings of light around the dragon's body. 3 glowed a soft blue, while the rest were a blazing red. Is this the golden dragon king sealed within my body? Those rings of light must be the seals then, right? Tang Wulin began to collect his thoughts, but he couldn't quite recall what happened before he woke up in this spiritual world. All he remembered was the warmth of Ji Yu's body when she hugged him, his blood essence surging with power, and himself subconsciously unleashing a punch. His mind had already been a haze by then. The last thing he could recall was the moment when the translucent scales began covering his body. Everything after that was blank. "Old Tang, you here?" Tang Wulin shouted. Maybe Old Tang can explain what happened. However, only silence answered him. Old Tang was nowhere to be found. The golden dragon floating above Tang Wulin suddenly stirred. It raised its head and unleashed a heaven-rending roar. A wave of dizziness struck Tang Wulin, stars dancing in his vision. Then the scene before him blurred and changed. He saw an enormous dragon with a 7-colored aura floating in midair. Countless beasts on the ground below it and in the air around it roared in respect, shaking Tang Wulin down to his very core. The horde of beasts then began rushing in one direction like a giant wave. A thundering voice boomed in Tang Wulin's head, so loud that it felt like a spiritual attack. "My fate is mine to decide. Not the heavens." Then he lost consciousness again. Some time later, Tang Wulin woke up, the scene of the dragon and the horde of beasts still fresh in his mind. Simply recalling that scene made his heart race. He groaned in pain. His eyes shot open. A familiar ceiling told him he was back in the working student dormitory. He tried to sit up but didn't have the strength. His head immediately fell back onto his pillow. Then he noticed a warmth pressing against his body. He heard the gentle sound of breathing. Looking down, he was stunned to find a pair of arms wrapped around him. "Huh? Is that Ji Yu? Oh. My head hurts." Tang Wulin leaned back and finally noticed that Ji Yu was embracing him from behind. Both of them were still wearing the clothes they had battled in. He tried to pry her arms from him gently. "There's no other way." "Don't move," a dissatisfied voice grumbled into his ear. An instant later, he felt the arms around him tighten their hold. He felt like he was being constricted by a pair of snakes. Throwing caution to the wind, he hastily separated himself from her. That was when Ji Yu finally woke up. "What are you doing in my bed?" she cried. Tang Wulin seized the opening and jumped off the bed. A bout of vertigo washed over him and he stumbled. His body was still weak. Gu stared at him, her eyes full of astonishment. Tang Wulin felt his throat go dry. This is actually my bed. Gu tried to get up, but a wave of dizziness struck her. Tang Wulin rushed to support her. He could smell the freshness of spring wafting from her. She blushed crimson and struggled free from his grasp, then stumbled over to her own bed. No one else was in the room. The sun already shone brightly outside. It looks like it's morning, so everyone else should be in class. Tang Wulin looked at Gu, but she averted her gaze and lowered her head. Awkward tension filled the air. Amidst this strange atmosphere, another bout of vertigo hit Tang Wulin and he had to lay down. Gu seemed to experience the same thing and fell onto her bed as well. The curtain dividing the room was open. Both of them could hear each other breathing. A few moments later, Gu managed to compose herself. She drummed up all of her courage, preparing to speak. But then she noticed that Tang Wulin's breathing had calmed down. That pig. Gu grumbled. Yet a wry smile appeared on her lips a moment later. Tang Wulin had fallen asleep just as she was about to say something. Perhaps it was due to fatigue. Maybe he just wanted to escape from her. When Tang Wulin next woke up, the room was bustling with activity. He heard Xu Xiaoyon's voice first. "Big sis Gu, how are you doing?" she asked. "Are you feeling okay? Please take it easy and rest some more. I heard the teachers talking about how the Holy Spirit Dolor said you and Tang Wulin would need a whole month to recover. Please don't force yourself. You can take this week of classes off." "How long were we unconscious?" Gu asked. Xu Xiaoyon stuck out 3 fingers. "It's been this many days." Gu pouted. "Why was I in his bed when I woke up?" Xu Xiaoyon snickered. "You were holding onto him so tightly that none of us could separate you. You sure know how to make a move early on, big sis Gu. Stop making stuff up." Gu blushed crimson. "What does a kid like you understand? Just focus on your cultivation instead of this nonsense." He. "How am I talking nonsense? Did you forget already? We've already moved to the next room over. Why did you choose to stay in this room if you didn't want to? You could have just walked next door as soon as you woke up." "Huh? I forgot. I'm telling you, I really forgot." Xu Xiaoyon was correct. Right after Xu Lixi and Yi Xinglan joined their group, they became working students and got another room to move all the girls into. Gu couldn't believe she had forgotten this. "Let's go." Gu shot to her feet and rushed out the door, the sweet laughter of Xu Xiaoyon following close behind. Tang Wulin pretended he was still asleep until he could no longer hear them. Then he opened one eye halfway and took a peek at the room to make sure no one was there. Confident that he was alone, he let out a sigh of relief. But then a round face popped out of his blind spot and peered down at him. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.